Hi, good evening everyone. This is Nelly Makiwe, and I'm going to report about family therapy techniques. In my report, I'm going to discuss family therapy techniques that include genograms, differentiating emotions and self-differentiation, I statements, triangles, intergenerational patterns, and normalizing challenges. Genograms. What is a genogram? A genogram is a graphic of a family that includes information about history, relationships, psychology, and patterns. It allows the therapist and client to explore these patterns and connections to guide treatment. Moenian therapists will typically create a genogram at the start of therapy but continue to add information throughout the course of treatment. In a genogram, individuals are represented by shapes, for example, circles for females and squares for males, and lines are used to connect them to indicate their relationships, for example, marriage and parent-child. Additional symbols and colors can be used to represent various characteristics such as health issues, occupations, and emotional states. Symbols used in genogram. Here are basic genogram symbols. Presented here are male, female, unknown gender, pet, adopted child, foster child, pregnancy, miscarriage, abortion, death, twins, and identical twins. There are also family relationships symbols. Excuse me. Entities in the genogram are connected by lines. Solid ones indicate a healthy relationship between the members. Variations can be observed when the family relationship involves separation, divorce, affair, cohabitation, and marriage. There are also symbols for emotional relationships. Colors and animated lines appear when the emotional relationship among the entities in the genogram is described. Symbols for apathy, harmony, hate, love, hostility, abuse, and violence all have distinctive figures that make them easily distinguishable. Mental illnesses, medical conditions, and addictions have their own symbols too. Deceased members are depicted with a large X over their symbols. Excuse me. Emotional connections between each member tell a lot about how aspects like stress, abuse, harmony, and support affect the quality of life of an individual. Different symbols and colors are used to denote addictions, physical or mental illnesses, as well as medical conditions. Here is a sample genogram created by Genopro. So you can see that the client here must be Daniel. You can see that all the shapes, colors, and lines that we have discussed earlier are used here to indicate his relationships with his relatives as well as his emotional relationships with them. Genograms are constructed with the help of the family members themselves, who provide information about their family history, relationships, and significant events. By mapping out the family's history and relationships, a genogram can help the therapist and family members identify patterns and influences that may be contributing to current problems or challenges. For example, a genogram may reveal patterns of substance abuse or mental illness across multiple generations, or patterns of communication or conflict within the family system. With this information, the therapist and family members can work together to identify areas for change and develop strategies for improving the family's functioning. The genogram can also serve as a useful tool for tracking progress over time, as changes in family dynamics and relationships are reflected in updates to the diagram. The genogram technique is a useful tool in family therapy for promoting understanding, insight, and positive change within family systems. The next techniques that I'm going to discuss are differentiating emotions and self-differentiation. Murray Bowen, a pioneer in family therapy, developed a theoretical framework for understanding and treating dysfunctional family systems. Two of the key concepts in Bowen's theory are differentiating emotions and self-differentiation. Let's talk about differentiating emotions first. Emotions are seen as a normal and healthy aspect of human experience. However, when individuals are unable to differentiate their emotions from those of others, or when they become overwhelmed by their emotions, this can lead to dysfunctional patterns of behavior within the family system. Differentiating emotions is defined as the tendency to distinguish among one's own emotions and to label one's emotions in a discrete way sensitive to context. The technique of differentiating emotions involves helping individuals to identify and label their own emotions separate from those of others. Teaching family members to identify and label their own emotions separate from those of others can be done in several ways. And here are a few techniques that may be helpful. First, use feelings charts. Feelings charts are visual aids that help individuals identify and label different emotions. You can provide family members with a feeling chart and encourage them to use it to identify their emotions. Next, role play. Role play can be a powerful tool in family therapy for helping clients learn to differentiate emotions and develop their emotional intelligence. By practicing in a safe and controlled environment, clients can gain confidence in their ability to identify, express, and respond to a range of emotions, leading to more effective communication and stronger relationships with the family. The third technique in differentiating emotions is journaling. Therapeutic journaling is the process of writing down our thoughts and feelings about our personal experiences. This kind of private reflection allows us to sort through events that have occurred and problems that we may be struggling with. In family therapy, journaling can be an effective tool for helping individuals and families differentiate emotions. By writing down their thoughts and feelings, individuals can gain a deeper understanding of their emotions and develop strategies for managing them. Journaling can be a useful tool for family therapy clients to differentiate emotions, improve communication, and develop coping strategies. Here is a journaling simulation. The Johnson family consists of a mother, father, and their teenage daughter. They are seeking family therapy to improve their communication and relationships. During the first session, the therapist suggests that each family member keep a journal to explore their emotions and share their thoughts with each other. Through journaling, the Johnson family was able to gain insight into their emotions and develop a deeper understanding of each other's perspectives. This helped improve their communication and strengthen their relationships. The fourth technique in differentiating emotions is validate emotions. Finally, it's important to validate and acknowledge family members' emotions. Validating emotions is a family therapy technique that involves acknowledging and accepting the emotions that a family member is experiencing without necessarily agreeing with the behavior or the situation that is causing the emotion. And here how it works. Encourage active listening. The therapist will encourage all family members to practice active listening, which involves focusing on what the other person is saying and how they are feeling. This helps to create a safe and supportive environment where family members can express themselves freely. Identify the emotion. The therapist will work with the family member who is experiencing the emotion to help them identify and name the emotion they are feeling. This can help the family member gain clarity about what they are feeling and communicate their emotions more effectively. To validate the emotion. The therapist will acknowledge and validate the family member's emotion without necessarily agreeing with their behavior or the situation that is causing the emotion. This involves expressing empathy and understanding and avoiding any judgment or criticism. Use reflective listening. The therapist may use reflective listening techniques to help family members feel heard and understood. This involves repeating back what the family member has said to ensure that they have been understood and that their perspective has been taken into account. Avoid minimizing or dismissing the emotion. The therapist will avoid downplaying or dismissing the family member's emotion, even if they disagree with the behavior or situation that is causing the emotion. This helps to create an atmosphere of respect and validation, which can promote healing and growth within the family. Lastly, problem solve. Once the emotion has been validated, the therapist can work with the family to find solutions or coping strategies for managing the situation or behavior that is causing the emotion. This can involve brainstorming ideas, developing action plans, and setting goals for change. By validating emotions, family members can build stronger relationships and work together to navigate difficult situations. This technique can be particularly helpful in situations where family members may not understand each other's feelings or where there is a history of invalidating emotions or dismissing feelings. Now let's proceed to self-differentiation. Self-differentiation refers to the ability to maintain a sense of self while also remaining emotionally connected to others. It involves being able to tolerate emotional tension and conflict without becoming overly reactive or emotionally enmeshed with others. To teach family members to identify and understand their own emotional patterns and triggers, as well as the patterns and triggers of others in the family system, here are a few techniques that may be helpful. First, explore family dynamics. Family dynamics refer to the patterns of interactions among relatives, their roles and relationships, and the various factors that shape their interactions. Because family members rely on each other for emotional, physical, and economic support, they are one of the primary sources of relationship security or stress. Here are some areas to consider in exploring family dynamics. Nature of parents' relationship. The therapist may ask the questions: describe the nature of the parents' relationship. How has the relationship between the parents affected the rest of the family? And how has the relationship between the parents changed over time? Parenting style. The therapist may ask the questions: how would you describe the parenting style of each parent? Has one parent been particularly soft or strict in their parenting approach? How have the parenting styles affected the children and the family as a whole? Number of children. The questions that could be asked are: how has the number of children in the family affected family dynamics? And are there any birth order patterns or sibling relationships that stand out? Personal or personalities of family members. The questions that could be asked are: what are the personalities of each family member and how do they interact with one another? And how has each family member's personality affected family dynamics? Absent parent. Questions: how has the absence of a parent affected the family? And how have family members coped with the absence of the parent? A mix of members. The therapist may ask the questions: how has the mix of members living in the same household affected family dynamics? And are there any blended family issues or step family dynamics that need to be addressed? Influence from extended family or others. The questions that could be asked are: how has the influence of extended family or others affected the family? And are there any cultural or religious traditions that have influenced the family? Chronically sick or disabled child. The questions that could be asked here are: how has having a chronically sick or disabled child within the family affected family dynamics? And how have family members coped with the challenges associated with the child's illness or disability? Events that have affected family members. The questions could be: how have events such as affairs, divorce, trauma, death, unemployment, or homelessness affected the family? And how have family members coped with these events? Other issues. The questions you may ask are: have there been any instances of family violence, abuse, alcohol or other drug use, mental health difficulties, or other disabilities within the family? And how have these issues affected family dynamics and how they have been addressed? Family values, culture, and ethnicity. What are the family values and culture, including beliefs about gender roles, parenting practices, and power or status of family members? And how have these values and beliefs influenced family dynamics? Nature of attachments. The questions that could be asked here are: what is the nature of attachments within the family, and how have attachment styles affected family dynamics? Dynamics of previous generations. The questions that you could ask here are, how have the dynamics of previous generations affected the family, and are there any intergenerational patterns that need to be addressed? Broader systems. In broader systems, you may ask the questions, how have broader systems such as social, economic, and political factors, including poverty, affected the family? And how have family members coped with the challenges associated with these broader systems? Communication and decision making. A therapist may ask the questions, how do family members communicate with one another? How are decisions made within the family? And are there any communication or decision-making issues that need to be addressed? Conflicts and tensions. You may ask, are there any conflicts or tensions within the family? How are conflicts and tensions typically addressed within the family? Lastly, contributions to family dynamic. A therapist may ask these questions. How does each family member contribute to the overall family dynamic? How have family members worked together to address challenges and maintain a healthy family dynamic? The second technique that is used to promote self-differentiation is encourage self-reflection. The therapist will encourage family members to engage in self-reflection and explore their own thoughts and feelings rather than simply reacting to the emotions of others. This can involve asking open-ended questions that encourage family members to reflect on their own behavior and emotions, such as, what do you think is causing you to react this way? Or how do you feel about this situation? Here are some open-ended questions that might be used to encourage reflection on behavior and motivations. How do you think your past experiences are affecting your reactions in this situation? What do you think are the underlying reasons for your behavior? How do you think your personal beliefs and values are influencing your reactions? What steps do you think you could take to change the current dynamics in the family? How do you think others' behaviors are affecting your own reactions? What are your personal goals for yourself and your relationships? How do you see your role in the family system? How do you think your behavior is affecting the other members of your family? And what kind of support do you need from the other family members? Let's now proceed to the third technique that promotes self-differentiation. Identify emotional triggers. Identifying emotional triggers can be a useful strategy for promoting self-differentiation in family therapy. Self-differentiation refers to the ability to manage one's own emotions and behaviors while maintaining a connection with others. By identifying emotional triggers, family members can become more aware of their emotional patterns and learn to regulate their emotions in a healthy way, which can lead to increased self-differentiation. Here are some ways that a therapist can identify emotional triggers in family members. First, ask open-ended questions. By asking open-ended questions, the therapist can encourage family members to share their emotional experiences and identify potential triggers. For example, the therapist might ask, can you tell me about a time when you felt particularly angry or frustrated? Can you think of a specific situation where you or another family member felt defensive or attacked? Or what was the trigger for that reaction? Observe nonverbal cues. Nonverbal cues such as facial expressions and body language can provide important clues about a person's emotional state. The therapist can pay attention to these cues and use them to identify potential emotional triggers. Use genograms. A genogram is a diagram that maps out family relationships and can help identify patterns of behavior and emotion within the family. By creating a genogram, the therapist can gain insight into potential emotional triggers within the family system. We already discussed on how to make a genogram in the first part of my report, so you already know how to make and utilize it. Explore past experiences. Past experiences can provide important clues about a person's emotional triggers. The therapist can encourage family members to explore past experiences and identify patterns that may be contributing to their emotional reactions. Lastly, use assessment tools. There are a variety of assessment tools that can help identify emotional triggers, such as Emotional Triggers Questionnaire or ETQ. These tools can help the therapist gain insight into the individual's emotional patterns and identify potential triggers. Identifying emotional triggers is an important part of family therapy, and therapists can use a variety of strategies to help individuals and families gain insight into their emotional patterns and develop healthier ways of managing their emotions. Here is a sample case of identifying emotional triggers. In a family therapy session, Sarah, a 27-year-old woman, is discussing her strained relationship with her mother. Whenever her mother criticizes her, Sarah becomes defensive and starts to argue with her. The therapist begins to ask Sarah questions to help her identify her emotional triggers. After the patient has identified her emotional triggers, the therapist can work with her to develop coping strategies to manage her emotions when these triggers are present. This may involve practicing relaxation techniques, developing cognitive behavioral strategies to change negative thought patterns, and exploring healthy ways to express her emotions. Additionally, the therapist can work with the patient's family to help them understand her emotional triggers and to create a supportive environment that encourages her to use her coping strategies. By addressing emotional triggers and developing coping strategies, the patient can learn to manage her emotional more effectively and improve her overall quality of life. The fourth technique that is used to promote self-differentiation is encourage boundary setting. When you set a personal boundary, you're essentially saying, this is what I'm okay with, and this is what I'm not okay with. Effective boundaries protect our personal space, our physical and mental health, and our safety and security. Boundary setting, then, is the process of determining any non-existent or unhealthy boundaries. It's also about exploring your comfort level in specific situations with the goal of setting healthy boundaries. The therapist will encourage family members to set healthy boundaries, both within the family and in their individual lives, in order to promote greater autonomy and self-determination. This can involve teaching family members to say no to requests or behaviors that violate their personal boundaries and helping them to develop assertiveness skills. To encourage clients to set boundaries, these are the areas to consider. First, physical boundaries. Physical boundaries protect your space and body, your right to not be touched, to have privacy, and to meet your physical needs such as resting or eating. They tell others how close they can get to you, what kind of physical touch, if any, is okay, how much privacy you need, and how to behave in your personal space. A physical boundary clearly defines that your body and personal space belong to you. Sexual boundaries. Sexual boundaries protect your right to consent, to ask for what you like sexually, and to be honest about your partner's sexual history. They define what kind of sexual touch and intimacy you want, how often, when, where, and with whom. Emotional or mental boundaries. Emotional or mental boundaries protect your right to have your own feelings and thoughts, to not have your feelings criticized or invalidated, and not have to take care of others' feelings. Spiritual or religious boundaries. Spiritual boundaries protect your right to believe in what you want, worship as you wish, and practice your spiritual or religious beliefs. Financial and material boundaries. Financial and material boundaries protect your financial resources and possessions, your right to spend your money as you choose, to not give or loan your money or possessions if you don't want to, and your right to be paid by an employer as agreed. Time boundaries. Time boundaries protect how you spend your time. They protect you from agreeing to do things you don't want to do, having people waste your time, and being overworked. In setting boundaries, there are examples of healthy ones that you need to consider. Declining anything you don't want to do, expressing your feelings responsibly, talking about your experiences honestly, replying in the moment, addressing problems directly with the person involved rather than with a third party, and making your expectations clear rather than assuming people will figure them out for you. Now let's proceed to the fifth technique to promote self-differentiation. This is develop awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or don't align with your internal standards. If you're highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself, manage your emotions, align your behavior with your values, and understand correctly how others perceive you. Put simply, those who are highly self-aware can interpret their actions, feelings, and thoughts objectively. In family therapy, the therapist will work with family members to help them develop greater self-awareness and emotional regulation skills such as mindfulness and meditation. This can involve teaching family members to identify their own emotions and physical sensations and to practice self-care and stress management techniques. Here are some self-awareness questions to ask. What does your ideal you look like? What kinds of dreams and goals do you have? Why are these dreams or goals important? What is keeping you from these dreams or goals? Rank 5 to 10 of the most important things in your life, in your career, family, relationships, and love, money, and so on. Now think about the proportion of time you dedicate to each of these things. What would you recommend to your children to do or not to do? Here are some questions for self-awareness and personality. Describe yourself in 3 words. Ask yourself if your personality has changed since childhood. Is your personality like either of your parents? What qualities do you most admire in yourself? What is your biggest weakness? What is your biggest strength? What things scare you? Do you make decisions logically or intuitively? How would you complete the question, what if? And here are also some questions that you may ask. Okay, for self-awareness in relationships or on relationships. Describe your ideal intimate relationship. How satisfied are you in your current relationship? Who would you call if you only had a few minutes to live? What would you say? Who have you loved the most? Of all the relationships you have had, describe the most or the best moment. Describe a devastating moment in terms of relationships. And ask yourself if you treat yourself better than others. Now, let's proceed to the 6th technique that promotes self-differentiation. Foster open communication. Open and honest communication creates an atmosphere that allows family members to express their differences as well as love and admiration for one another. It is through communication that family members are able to resolve the unavoidable problems that arise in all families. In family therapy, the therapist will foster open communication within the family, encouraging family members to express their thoughts and feelings in a constructive and respectful manner. This can involve teaching active listening skills, such as paraphrasing and reflecting back what the other person has said, and helping family members to avoid blaming or criticizing each other. To foster open communication, a therapist may use the following strategies. Active listening. Encourage family members to actively listen to each other by focusing on what the other person is saying without interrupting or judging. This can be done by paraphrasing and reflecting back what the other person has said to ensure understanding. Non-judgmental stance. The therapist can create a non-judgmental environment where family members feel safe to express their thoughts and feelings without fear of criticism or blame. Validation. The therapist can help family members validate each other's feelings and perspectives, even if they do not agree with them. This can help family members feel heard and understood. Empathy. Encourage family members to show empathy towards each other by putting themselves in each other's shoes and understanding their experiences and emotions. Lastly, conflict resolution skills. The therapist can teach family members how to resolve conflicts in a constructive and respectful manner without resorting to blaming or criticizing each other. By using these strategies, a therapist can help foster open communication within a family and create a safe and supportive environment for all family members to express their thoughts and feelings. Now, let's proceed to the last or seventh, a technique to promote self-differentiation, and that is promote individual growth. Promote individual growth is an essential component of family therapy because it allows each family member to develop their own skills, insights, and coping strategies, which can help them contribute positively to the family system as a whole. The therapist will promote individual growth and development, recognizing that each family member is a unique individual with their own needs and goals. Here are some ways a therapist can promote individual growth to family members in family therapy. First, encourage self-reflection. Encouraging family members to reflect on their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors can help them gain insight into their own patterns and biases. The therapist can use open-ended questions to prompt self-reflection, such as, how do you think your behavior impacted your family member? Or what do you think is behind your reaction to this situation? Second, promote personal agency. The therapist can promote individual growth by encouraging family members to take responsibility for their own actions and choices. By emphasizing personal agency, the therapist can help family members recognize that they have the power to make positive changes in their lives. Third, identify strengths and resources. The therapist can help family members identify their strengths and resources, such as personal qualities, skills, or support systems that can be used to overcome challenges and achieve personal goals. Fourth, provide psychoeducation. The therapist can provide psychoeducation on mental health, emotional regulation, communication skills, and other topics that can promote individual growth. This can help family members develop new coping strategies and increase their self-awareness. And the last one, develop individualized treatment plans. The therapist can work with family members to develop individualized treatment plans that address their unique needs and goals. By tailoring the therapy to the individual, the therapist can help family members achieve personal growth within the context of the family system. In conclusion, the teachings of differentiating emotions and self-differentiation are aimed at promoting greater emotional clarity and resilience within individuals and families, which can ultimately lead to greater overall health and well-being of the family. Now, the third concept or technique in family therapy is I statements. An I statement is a communication technique that emphasizes the emotions of the speaker rather than the attributes of the other person. It aims to communicate the emotion behind the statement rather than bringing up defensiveness or feelings of blame in the listener. This is less accusatory, and it allows for the actual issue at hand to be addressed. Excuse me. For example, instead of "you never help around the house," the client would be encouraged to rephrase as "I feel overwhelmed with chores and would like more help from you." Let's look at the psychology behind you statements and I statements. Studies have shown that I statements reduce hostility and defensiveness, and that you statements can provoke anger. Today, it's a commonly accepted fact that The use of I statements in relationships and even at work results in better communication. But why? You statements make your partner feel that you are punishing them. When people feel attacked, they naturally become defensive. It's hardwired into our DNA. By pointing out what they have done wrong or how they have made you feel upset, sad, or angry, you're either trying to make them feel as bad as you feel or trying to make them change. Neither is a part of creating a healthy relationship. Rather than inviting a productive response from your partner, you're inviting anger. An I statement, on the other hand, shows personal accountability. It states that even though your partner is not acting or is speaking in the way you'd prefer, you are not blaming him or her for how you feel. When using I statements, you take responsibility for the part you played in the disagreement and display the openness for deep listening and resolution. Now, let's learn, how to form I statements. So, how do you turn a you statement into an I statement? First, remember that the point of an I statement is to express how you feel inside. That's why they're often called I feel statements. A true I statement uses specific emotions such as I feel joyful, anxious, lonely, resentful, angry, calm, embarrassed, fearful, and so on. Avoid words that may seem like emotions but really imply the action of your partner. I feel ignored, annoyed, pissed off, mistreated, manipulated, controlled, cheated, abandoned, and so on. It is also a common misperception that you can tack on the words I feel in front of a you statement. For example, I feel like you are taking me for granted. This is just a you statement in disguise. It implies blame and there is no actual emotion being expressed. Now let's look at more I statements examples. Well, it can be difficult to use I statements if you are not used to this type of language. These I statements examples will help. I felt lonely when you did not come home to have dinner with me all week. I get anxious when you don't tell me you're running late. I felt embarrassed when you were talking to that man at the party for half an hour. I get confused and hurt when you leave your clothes on the floor because I thought I had communicated how important it was that you put them in the laundry basket. I feel resentful when you take our dog to the dog park on the weekends without me when we have not had time together for weeks. Now, using I statements in your relationship is also very important. Using I feel statements works best when your emotions seem overwhelming and you want to criticize your partner. When you first start using them, you should explain to your partner what you're trying to accomplish and admit you might not do it perfectly the first time. Try to be as gentle as possible and realize the tone of your voice matters as much, if not more, than the words you use. Remember the I statement examples listed above and try to identify the emotion you are feeling and where it stems from. Admit if you have a trigger from the past that is playing a part in how you feel and if this is making you overreact. Now let's learn how to turn you statements into I statements. If you have a complaint about the tension, You statement, you may say, "You don't care about me. You are inconsiderate. You never make time to call or text me." If you convert that into I statement, you may say, "When you don't pay me attention or call or text me, I feel disconnected and lonely." If you complain about housework, in the you statement, you may say, "You don't help out enough. You just expect me to clean up after you." In the I statement, you may say, "When you don't help out with the housework, I feel overwhelmed and unappreciated." If you have complaint about money, in the you statement, you may say, "You spend money carelessly and don't watch the budget." If you convert that into I statement, you may say, "When you spend money on extra items, it makes me feel nervous and stressed." What if you have a complaint about work? In the you statement, you may say, "You care more about work than you do your own family." If you convert that into I statement, you may say, "When we don't get to spend a lot of time together as a family, I feel disheartened and unfulfilled." Now, there are times that you might complain about your sex life. In the you statement, you may say, "You never seem to want to have sex anymore. You don't find me attractive." If you convert that into I statement, you may say, "When you don't initiate physical intimacy with me, I feel unwanted and undesired." How about listening? In the you statement, you may say, "You never hear me. You don't understand me." If you convert that into I statement, you may say, "When you don't listen compassionately, I feel helpless and hopeless. I feel frustrated and alone." Lastly, if you complain about cell phone usage, which is a very common problem nowadays, okay, in the you statement, you may say, "You're always on your phone reading, texting, and emailing. You care more someone or something else than what's right in front of you." If you convert that into I statement, you may say, "When you keep your phone out at dinner, I feel unappreciated and unimportant." Now let's proceed to the fourth concept of Bohemian's family therapy technique called triangles. In family therapy, a triangle refers to a communication pattern in which one family member attempts to reduce tension or conflict between two other family members by involving a third person. This can occur when one family member feels caught in the middle of a conflict or is unable to resolve the issue on their own. By bringing a third person, they may hope to gain support, shift the focus away from themselves, or balance power dynamics within the family. However, a problem called triangulation may arise in triangles when one of the three becomes a factor of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and conflict between the other two members. Triangulation is a form of manipulation and is used to exploit an interaction between two people who are not communicating directly. It is problematic due to a third person becoming intertwined in a situation that should be between the two individuals participating in the conflict. It is a strategy that emotionally unstable people can use to influence a situation. It is an unhealthy mechanism that can generate toxicity and additional unnecessary negativity in relationships. It can become a regular process for individuals inclined to be manipulative to get what they want or turn people against each other. Triangulation is often an attempt for individuals to try and possess control of a situation and seek advantage from it in the form of loyalty, or attention from the other parties. It brings difficulties and confusion because too many people can get involved, raising the risks for the occurrence of harmful behaviors. In family therapy, several techniques can be used to address triangulation, which can be a source of conflict and dysfunction within the family system. And here are some of them. 1. Genogram. The therapist may create a genogram, which is a family diagram that maps out intergenerational patterns and relationships. This can help identify recurring patterns within the family and provide insight into the origins of conflicts that may be contributing to triangles. 2. Reframing. The therapist helps family members reframe the problem as a shared issue that requires cooperation from everyone in the family. By reframing the problem, family members can begin to work collaboratively to address the issue rather than positioning themselves against each other. 3. Boundary setting. The therapist may work with family members to establish clearer boundaries around communication and problem solving, reducing the reliance on triangles as a way of coping with conflict. 4. Direct communication. The therapist may encourage family members to communicate directly with each other rather than relying on a third person to mediate. This can help reduce triangulation and promote more authentic and meaningful communication with the family. 5. Practice self-reflection. Encourage family members to reflect on their own emotions and reactions to situations rather than blaming others or engaging in triangulation. This can promote self-awareness and personal growth, which can contribute to healthier emotional triangles within the family. And the last one is encourage problem solving. Encourage family members to work together to solve problems rather than relying on triangles to manage conflicts. Encourage the development of conflict resolution skills such as active listening, compromise, and problem solving. Here's a case that represents this. Maria is a single mother who is struggling to manage the behavior of her two teenage children, Jean and Carla. Whenever Maria tries to set boundaries or discipline her children, Jean and Carla will often turn to their grandmother, who is the third person in this case, Maria's mother, for support. Maria feels like she is constantly caught in the middle and is frustrated by her children's behavior. In family therapy, the therapist works with Maria and her children to identify the role that the grandmother is playing in their communication patterns. Through role-playing exercises, the therapist helps Jean and Carla understand how their reliance on their grandmother is contributing to their communication problems with Maria, their mother. The therapist also encourages Maria to establish clearer boundaries with her children and to communicate her expectations directly to them. The therapist also creates a genogram of the family, which reveals a pattern of triangulation that goes back several generations. By exploring the family history and how past conflicts have been resolved, therapist helps the family understand the origins of their current communication patterns and how they can work together to break the cycle. Over the course of several therapy sessions, the family members learn to communicate more directly with each other and to respect each other's boundaries. By working collaboratively, they are able to address the underlying issues that were contributing to the triangulation and build stronger, more authentic relationships with each other. Now let's proceed to the fifth concept of Bowenian family theory techniques. It's called intergenerational patterns. Intergenerational family patterns are made up of behaviors, beliefs, and family dynamics that are passed down from generation to generation. These patterns become deeply entrenched within family system, and in the case of unhealthy patterns, this is problematic because they can be difficult to break. Identifying intergenerational patterns is an important aspect of family therapy. These patterns can help to explain currently family dynamics and conflicts, as well as provide insight into how certain behaviors and beliefs have been passed down from generation to generation. Now, there are two techniques that are used in identifying intergenerational patterns. First, genograms. We have already discussed this several times, but anyway, I will just read to you. One way that a family therapist can identify intergenerational patterns is by conducting a genogram, which is a visual representation of a family tree that includes information about family relationships, health histories, and other important factors. By analyzing the genogram, the therapist can identify patterns of behavior, communication styles, and relationship dynamics that have been passed down from generation to generation. The second one is I statements. Intergenerational family therapy can be used for couples and individuals as well as for families. They are discouraged from using accusatory statements and instead inspired to use the more positive I statements. These encourage the speaker to focus on their own thoughts or feelings rather than to blame and accuse the other party. This can lead to a calmer and more productive exchange of ideas instead of putting people on the defensive. Let us now proceed to the last and the sixth Bowenian family therapy theory, which is normalizing challenges. In Bowenian family therapy, normalizing challenges involves helping clients to understand that challenges and conflicts are a normal part of the family life cycle and that they will likely continue to occur even after therapy has ended. Therapists may help clients to identify potential challenges that may arise in the future and work with them to develop strategies for coping with these challenges in a healthy and effective way. This can involve teaching clients skills such as problem solving, communication, and conflict resolution, as well as helping them to develop a sense of resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity. To normalize challenges, therapists may also work with clients to reframe their understanding of difficult situations, helping them to see these situations as opportunities for growth and learning rather than as insurmountable problems. This can involve helping clients to develop a sense of curiosity and openness about their experiences and encouraging them to view challenges as opportunities to deepen their understanding of themselves and their relationships. Lastly, normalizing challenges in Bohemian family therapy involves helping clients to develop a sense of realistic optimism and resilience in the face of adversity, and equipping them with the skills and strategies they need to navigate the challenges of the family life cycle with confidence and grace. Thank you very much for listening and watching to my report. Have a great day.